Okay, so I think I've got a bit of privacy. Hope there's no one around. Really hate vlogging in front of other people. But anyway, waffling. Tonight, I have set myself a challenge. I'm going to go to one field, and within that one field, I have to try and create 3 different images, each one with a different feel. Now, when I say a different feel, I use that term loosely. It's still going to feel like it's a field, still going to feel like it's in golden hour, and it's still hopefully going to feel beautiful. You know, as beautiful as it feels. Oh, lies. Anyway, so I've got a field in mind just over this way, and yeah, I'll see you there. This is the field that I have come to photograph. There is one thing that does limit how I can be creative, and that is the fact that it's filled full of wheat. But that is also going to be beneficial because I'm going to use that wheat as interest and foreground interest. And look at it. Why wouldn't I want to use it? It's beautiful, it's golden, and you know, it's just quite nice. I've also got this tree over here. I'm hoping to maybe use the sun, clouds, make some interest with that. I've got roseberry topping just over there, so it might be worth getting the long lens out and see if I can create something with that. And then I've also got all of the industry just over here, over in Middlesbrough. And as that sun gets lower, it's going to turn it into this beautiful orange light. And yeah, I've got good hopes for the 3 images that I'm going to try and get from this, and hopefully each one will have a different feeling, but time will tell. First thing I'm going to look at though is the most dominant of them all, this tree, because I don't feel like it's going to need necessarily the best light, whereas roseberry topping might be a bit of a struggle. I'll see if I can zoom in using the DJI, but roseberry topping at the moment has got way too much light on there, and I feel like it's going to come into its own as that sun drops lower. Whereas this tree here, I think it might be perfect for this. And there's something I noticed as I was driving across, and fingers crossed, it is what I think it is and how it is. So what I was kind of hoping for was there was going to be a clear divide, separation of the 2 crops down the middle here, and the tree was going to be central. And then I would have played off that, had the tree in the middle, and you know, magic starts happening. But what I'm starting to wonder now is which of the crops actually looks prettier, whether it's this one or whether it's this wheat. I'm going to say this, I don't want to get it wrong, but I want to say barley. I want to say that's barley and that's wheat, but could be completely wrong. Anyway, tangent again. I am going to head over this way into what I think is barley and maybe see if I can get a sun star through the branches. I think that's a nice place to start. And there is a little bit of a rough track that I'm following. Don't worry, I'm not just walking across the farmer's crops. Not too much anyway. But look at that shadow cast by that tree, the sun star poking through them branches. That's not a bad first shot, is it? Okay, so I'm going to start by getting this one, and then we'll work on something else later. But time to get set up. So I've got my camera set up, and first of all, I apologize for how low you are. You are super low down right now, and yeah, I know it's not ideal. Ideally, you'd be up here, head height, you know, conversing, But, you know, gorilla pods are so much easier than carrying 2 of these beasts. I apologise. If you are very sorry about, if you are angry at me, I apologise. Okay, anyway, on with the shot. I've got a couple of options with this image. Let's flip into camera mode. So I've got this beautiful shadow coming down the middle, tree here, absolutely beautiful. And I quite like the way it is right now, where I've got the faintest blue, but really it's all blown out. But what's starting to create is almost like a halo effect around this tree here. And I think that just looks absolutely beautiful. What I could do is I could lower that exposure and start to get more detail in that sky. But I feel like that actually takes away from what I'm getting right now. I quite like the almost a play between them really intense dark shadows and them highlights behind. I think they look good. So I think I'm going to keep it a little bit more like that, where I've got the sun star in the center. It's all very obviously blown out around the outside, like really obviously blown out. But I like that effect. I think in this sense, it works really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to capture my first shot now. I've focused in on the tree, firing that off. And I think, check it out, let's go to this side. Check that out. I think that sun star centralized with that shadow coming in from both sides. I may crop off this bottom section down here just so it's more of a V coming in towards that central tree. I quite like that. What I might also try, which I'm going to do now, is I'm going to switch lenses. I'm going to go to my wider angle so I'm getting more of that V at the bottom leading into that solo tree. I think that's going to look quite nice. So a quick change of lens and then we'll see how that looks, how that differs. Okay, so that's actually looking way, way nice. So let me flip into camera mode. Okay, so the tree isn't totally straight to the land. So what I did is I put the grid up coming across the way and I used that central line to straighten up against that trunk of the tree, and it's working really well. And what I've also got is I've got this beautiful shadow coming straight down here into that tree trunk. For some reason, the tree trunk is leaving the most amazing shadow coming across, and I've lowered my angle of the camera, so I've accentuated more of that shadow leading up into that tree, the focal point, and it's standing so dominantly. And I'm really enjoying that blown outness around the outside. And I know it's a loss of information, but I think in this circumstance where I'm playing with them shadows versus them highlights, it looks good. And I've just taken an image. Check that out. Now, if I compare this image here, this being my first image, where I didn't have as long a shadow in the foreground, it didn't have as much power to it. Now, this is the second lens where I've got it on 15mm. Look at that extended foreground, how it leads into that tree and gives it that punchiness. And I think it works loads better. But just in case, when I get back and I edit these, I am going to take another set of shots where I expose properly for the highlights and for the shadows. So if I decide that what was I thinking, it might have looked great on the back of my camera, but in reality, it looks terrible. I've got a safety shot. Okay, so I've got my second shot all lined up. Bearing in mind, that doesn't exist. Got into a 5:4 crop for this. Okay, so those bits, they don't exist. At the moment, the sun has just headed behind a big cloud. This one just here. Fingers crossed, my favourite, God rays. Gonna get some of them beams coming down. Other than that, I've got a beautiful light anyway. So I'm still happy with the beautiful light. Let's raise this exposure. Field of wheat, immediate foreground. Hill shape cut off here. Hill shape cut off here. In the valley at the background, I've got all of that industry. which isn't the most beautiful, but it has lots of smoke and steam and bits and pieces going on, and it is quite interesting. It's not the most picturesque. It's definitely not the Lake District or Scotland, but still quite nice. So I'm going to capture this. So I've got it in a 5/4 crop. I'm going to go into Middlesbrough, and I'm going to focus to infinity on Borough. In my eyes, that's easily the most important place to have sharp, the focal point. Back up to f11 because I've got something immediately close. f11 through, should be nice and sharp, focus to infinity. Okay, fire that off. Then I'm going to raise that exposure, fire that off, and then I'm going to raise that exposure again and fire that off. Now, the reason why I did it in 3, and normally I only do it in 2, but the reason why I did it in 3 this time is because there is a gradual light towards me. In the town itself, there is a light just in the middle. There's a really bright light in the sky behind the cloud. You'll see it in this shot here. Then there's a bright light in the town, and it's very gradual. And if I just exposed for that light in the town, this would have been completely dark, and I might have ended up involving grain into my shot. So instead, I've exposed for this, I've exposed for that, and then I've exposed for that highlights, that very, very bright highlights in the sky. And this is my second shot. So far, my 3-shot challenge from one field is working. It is working. Now, I just don't know how I'm going to get my 3rd shot. But I'm going to see what happens with the light, see as it changes, see as everything gets a little bit more colourful, and maybe I can use some sort of really close to some of this barley or wheat, use that, and then have everything else nice and bokeh off in the background. Maybe that'll work quite nicely. Okay, got an idea for my 3rd and final shot, but it's a bit rushed because the light is fading fast and I kind of need it. So you can probably see from what I'm doing here is I've come nice and low to the wheat, and I'm going to shoot up the tree. I'm going to use my ultra wide angle lens, and I'm going to make the tree look big. The light that's on the tree right now is beautiful, but I'm going to have to capture this, so I will talk to you in a second. The light faded too fast. I might be able to bring it out with a little bit of dodging and burning. I can still see it visibly with my eyes, but whether the camera brought it out. But this is the shot that I've just captured. You can see the wheat at the bottom. It's nice, graduate. I was hoping to have a little bit more of this down here in the scene, but with the time restraints that I had of getting my camera into place, I noticed it too late, pretty much. I did also think about coming down this line and shooting up this line from in the barley side. I'm probably getting them the wrong way around. This is probably barley and that's probably wheat. But I did think about going into the other side and then using like the fact that I'm in there, then the line, and then the tree. But what was happening is I couldn't get a separation between the tree and the background. It's starting to blend in. So I thought, come nice and low, shoot up the tree, and see if that worked any better. And it did. It did. It looks all right, actually, I have to say. I quite like the composition. It might look really dark and flat straight out of camera, but remember I shoot in RAW. And if you guys don't know what RAW is, there is thousands of videos that will explain in a much better way than I will. But I, tonight, have captured 3 separate images, hopefully with different feels. I don't think it was quite as successful as my waterfall video, linked just here. I think in that one I truly got 3 different feelings. One of them could have been in the jungle. Like, it worked very well. In the field, it didn't work as well. But I'm wondering whether this is like a little thing that I can do. I can go into environments and challenge myself to get 3 different images with 3 different feels from that same location. If you think that's a sick idea and you'd be interested in watching that content, leave a comment below. Let me know. But from me this evening, this beautiful evening with the most gorgeous light, that is all. And I'm going to bid you all farewell. I hope you have a lovely week and don't work too hard. Peace out, peeps.
If you talk all the time, you'll never hear what anybody else has to say. And therefore all you'll have to talk about is your own conversation. The same is true for people who think all the time. That means, when I use the word think, talking to yourself, subvocal conversation, the constant chit-chat of symbols and images and talk and words inside your skull. Now, if you do that all the time, you'll find that you've nothing to think about except thinking. And just as you have to stop talking to hear what others have to say, you have to stop thinking to find out what life is about. And the moment you stop thinking, you become into immediate contact with the unspeakable world.